Hey guys, and welcome to the High Road Podcast. This is your host, Maddie, and as always, I'm so incredibly grateful and appreciative of you tuning in today. So the title of this episode is Let Them. Today I want to give you some resources, some ideas. I even want to give you a specific person who I have found extremely informative. And honestly, she's helped me in a lot of ways. I listened to her podcasts. She has come out with a book that I'm actually going to be talking about today. And her name is Mel Robbins. Now, for those of you who have not heard of her, she talks a lot about her life experiences, and she has people come on her podcast who she interviews. And she really is just all for bettering other people and learning through experiences. And she has a really special way of connecting people together and just helping other people and helping people know that they're not in this life alone. And that oftentimes if you feel like you're failing at something or you're not sure how to go about something or how to navigate a certain season in life, she has either gone through it or she has someone on her podcast who has gone through it. And then she really just finds a way to be able to make you feel connected. And it's helped me in so many incredible ways. So today I want to give you that resource. And I want to be able to connect what she has to talk about. And she actually has a let them theory. And that is what her book is based on. And she really goes into just a very quick, just a short summary of, what she really means by let them. And so I really want to talk about that idea today. And I want to focus on something that is so incredibly simple, but yet it seems so complicated sometimes. And it's so hard. And some of us may never learn it, or it takes us a really long time. For me, for myself, this has been a hard lesson, and I've had to learn the hard way. And that is allowing people to simply be themselves, even if that means that it's something that you don't agree with, even if it's something that has been wrong to you or something that has been done wrong to you. Because at the end of the day, we cannot control other people, and we have to be able to let go of what we can't control. And as humans, that is so incredibly uncomfortable. Letting go of control. I was once in a season where every single thing that was coming my direction, I was going to make sure to not only have control, but that I was going to have the tightest grip on it. That included my children, how I was perceived, my job, my relationships, just in every single area of my life. I felt like I wanted control. And it was such an illusion because honestly, during seasons of my life where I was gripping the tightest, everything was just falling in between my fingertips. And I had absolutely no control really over anything. And that's really when I learned the very hard lesson that in this life, we really don't have any control. Anything could randomly happen, but more so, we have control over our attitude, over what we believe, over our morals, our values, how we react, how we respond. We have control over those things. We don't have control over what people say. We don't have control over what people do. We don't have control over so many and everyday situations and experiences that happen in our lives. And when you think about that, it's so simple, like I said. But to our human brains, it's really complicated, and it causes a lot of fear. It causes a lot of anxiety. And as I said, when we get like that, it not only affects us in a negative way, but it takes away from our peace. It 1000% takes away from us. And so we have to really be able to let other people be who they are. Let other people do the things that they do and still be able to hold up walls and hold up boundaries and be able to maintain and keep our peace. Because at the end of the day, that is all we can control. So I want to really dive into that. But first, before I get to that, I want to give you this little snippet of what Mel Robbins has to say. Here she is.
So I've been using this thing called the let them theory. I love this. I want you to try it. Here's how it works. The next time you feel left out, your friends all go out to brunch together and they don't invite you. Let them. Or maybe the person you're dating doesn't want a commitment. Let them. Or perhaps your spouse does not want to do the 5K with you. Let them. Your company is laying people off. Let them. You spend so much time and energy trying to control other people and getting emotionally worked up about things that are beyond your control. You can tap into peace and true control if you let them be themselves. And here's the other thing. If you let them, people will then reveal who they truly are. And when they reveal who they truly are to you, you now know what you can choose next that's right for you. So let them.
So there you have it. I am so excited to talk about this topic today, to talk about the idea of control and how we can allow people to really just be themselves, and then how that, by us allowing them to be who they are, it not only allows us to maintain our peace, but then it also allows us, I love how Mel Robbins then put it, then we get to decide our next move. And that allows us to be responsible for ourselves and to understand that other people are responsible for them. And it creates this space between people where we're able to understand that I'm not responsible for you and you're not responsible for me. And you get to do what you want and I get to do what I want. And you get to behave how you want and I get to behave how I want. And you're going to have the consequences that are meant to be there for you based on how you act and how you behave. And I'm going to have consequences that are meant for me based on how I act and how I behave, right? Because with every single choice that we have in this life, it's going to be a positive or a negative consequence. And every single person has a choice. And it's like, yeah, that's really, really simple. But for some reason, that's really hard for our minds to grasp sometimes. It's really hard for us to understand that everybody really gets a choice, because sometimes as people, we really just see things so very black and white. And it's, I'm wrong, you're right, I'm wrong. Done, period. This is over with, right? But that's not always the case. And I'm understanding as I get older that we can have so many differences with people and we still can be able to maintain relationships and see things differently, but we are able to have different perspectives. But the thing that I really, really love about what Mel Robbins said is the fact that she focused solely in at the end about how you get to decide. So let's say someone secludes you, right? Someone betrays you. Someone talks about you badly, in a bad way. Let them, because now that was their choice, but now you get to choose what you want to do. And that's where it's so important to understand boundaries. That's where it's so important to understand what a healthy relationship is and what a healthy relationship is not. It's so important to understand what's normal and what's not. But where my mind goes is that it allows us to put the responsibility of each other on separate ends, and we're able to be like, that was your choice and that's okay. You decided to gossip about me. You decided to talk badly about me. You decided to make me feel bad and seclude me. That is okay, and I'm going to let you do that. You decided to do that for whatever reason. You decided to have that perception and to act on that way for whatever reason. And that reason is okay. And understand that I'm saying it's okay, and it might not have been. But what I'm saying is you're just letting them. You're letting them do those things. And then you're deciding your next move. You're deciding that if you're going to stay or if you're going to walk away. If you're going to maintain that friendship or if you're going to cut it off. If you're going to love that person from a distance or if you're going to communicate and work on that relationship. If you are going to continue to sit next to that person in the office or you're going to ask your boss to move completely across the room. It's up to you. It is up to you. So we're going to let people decide and do the things that they want to do, and understand that I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that means that we're not going to stand up for ourselves when we need to, or that means that we need to allow disrespect. That's not any of those things. I'm very clearly understanding that we have to have boundaries, and we also need to be able to stand up for ourselves, right? But we're not going to seek control. We're not going to seek to change a person. That is the hardest lesson that I've heard, probably, that I've learned in my entire life, is understanding that you cannot change someone, especially if they don't want to be changed. So what we see right in front of our eyes is what we have to either allow or be like, this is not something that can be in my circle. This is something that I need distance from. We have to be able to make that choice, and we get to make that choice. So when these things happen in life, when someone mistreats you, when something doesn't go your way, when someone acts in a way that you believe that they should not have, right? We let them, because that is their choice and they get to make their choice. And they get to have the consequences that come to them, because that's not our responsibility. However, it is our responsibility to decide, what are we going to do next? Seeing what we've seen, knowing what we know, with the information that we have, what are we going to do next? What's our next move? Well, we can be anything that we want to be, right? Just like we're going to let them, we can let ourselves. So we can be angry, we can be mad, we can be resentful, we can be unforgiving, we can be stressed, we can let it control us. That is an option. And 100% I have been there. And I have been in those places actually for years, where I have let something control me. Let a situation control me for a very long period of time. And you can do that. But I will tell you, with firsthand experience, it doesn't go very well for you. So the other option is we can be resilient. We can move on. We can be forgiving over time. But how can we do this? When we're betrayed in life, when something happens that we feel like, what the heck, that came out of nowhere, didn't see that coming, how am I supposed to let you do that to me? Sometimes we get into these situations where it's like, man, you owe me something now, right? And that's kind of that resentful piece, where we're mistreated in such a way by certain situations or by people where it's really hard to let go of. And that's where that really, really tight grip comes in. That's when we really want to control. And sometimes it's really scary because we don't even know that we're trying to control. We think that we're being rational, and we're not in any way, shape, or form. We're not. We're just trying to control. So when these things happen, it's really important that we are thinking with our non-emotional brain, making sure that we are using our rational brain, that we're taking the time to process. But with that processing time and with feeling the things that we need to feel, we're going to set a boundary, right? So let's say someone talks very badly about you at work, and it goes all over the office. It goes all over your work. And it gets back to you, like it always does. I promise you that happens every single time. But then once it gets back to you, then it's like, okay, this is not only a lie, this is people assuming. Now everybody knows I want to justify myself. And our natural reaction is not only validating and justifying, but then it's, okay, now I need to control this situation. Control what? This is something that you didn't even bring up. This is something that is coming out of pocket from somebody else in who knows what kind of context, who knows how it got brought up. Rumors and gossip, those things fly around all the time, but it's so natural as humans for us to become defensive, right? So this is just an example. What we can do is we can be that first option. We can be angry, mad, resentful, unforgiving, and then let it control us for an entire year, make work absolutely miserable, make us not want to talk to anybody in the entire office, at our entire workplace. Like, it can make us not sleep at night. I mean, things can really spiral out of control. Or we can be resilient, we can be rational, we can understand that we're going to feel what we need to feel, and then we're going to move on. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to distract ourselves. That doesn't mean that we're going to dismiss our feelings or put our feelings under the rug. What we're going to do is we're simply going to set a boundary. We're going to understand the seriousness of the situation. We're going to understand what happened, right? And how big or how small it is. And basically, what I mean by that is, depending on how big or how small it is going to depend on the realistic time frame that you give yourself to have a tantrum, so to speak. I promise you, this is something that I do, especially in my current season. When, I'm just going to be honest here, when something stupid comes back to me about something that was said about me that was not true, something that's on the internet, something that's, flying around about a situation that somehow other people know more than myself. Whatever the case is, these things have happened so much in my current season where something gets back to me and I'm like, that's an assumption, that's a complete lie, and that must have just been another life, because I have no idea what the living hell they're talking about, right? And so when I hear maybe a bogus remark, especially if it's about my kids, that just, for all you mothers listening, that just puts us into mama bear mode. It's and it doesn't matter, who it is. And it really just sparks something in you. And I've really had to, in those situations, know, okay, this is bogus. This is a lie. This is not the truth. And I have to really sit with that. And then I give myself some time to throw a tantrum. I give myself, for instance, something happened the other day where I received a message from my lawyer about something that was not only not accurate, something that had been going around, and something that was very much perceived in a way that was very one-sided. And it was very upsetting to me. And of course it had to deal with my children, because unfortunately my ex and I at this time, we do go back and forth in court, not at my own choosing, but that's just is what it is. And things are said and all over the place that are not at all accurate. And then it's I give myself 30 minutes, right? And not even a lot of time. If it's something big, give yourself a day, give yourself a week, give yourself hours. When it's something that not only is a lie, when it's something that's not only perceived incorrectly, or an assumption, or, just you can tell, this is coming straight out of pocket, then it's what? Give yourself a reasonable amount of time to throw a tantrum, to be mad, to be resentful, and to be F you, this sucks, and then you move on. So in this instant, when I'm hearing stupid things and, things are coming my way that I'm like, whoa, 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 I'm doing the best that I can here. And I'm a good mom, and this is not perceived correctly in any way, shape, or form. This is not okay. The things that are coming to me that I'm having to, to either then have to feel like I have to justify myself or go to a courtroom for. Like, it's all just stupid stuff. So I understand the size of the problem. Well, because these things are lies or not, accurate or assumptions, it's small. So I'm going to use my rational brain. I'm going to keep it small. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes. And 30 minutes, if I need to cry, if I need to be sad, if I need to be mad, if I need to throw a tantrum, if I need everybody to leave me the hell alone, I get 30 minutes. And that's my boundary. And so I think with that, you just have to be really realistic and understand, okay, how much time do I need to feel what I need to, but then I am not going to let this thing or this person or this situation control me. So maybe that means after that, maybe you're going to journal. Okay, you're going to dive into your purpose, whatever that is. You're going to work out, you're going to run, you're going to listen to music, you're going to write poetry. You're going to have an outlet. And if you don't have an outlet today, I encourage you so incredibly much to find anything that's your outlet. Cooking, baking, it doesn't matter what it is. Just find an outlet. And oftentimes our outlets really surprise us, and then they actually end up really being gifts and things that are so incredibly purposeful for us, right? It's important for you to find support. Talk to the people that you trust. And more than anything, it's so important to know what is the truth and to understand what is a lie. Because everything that comes out of people's mouths, everything that people act on, is not always out of the truth, right? Things that people say sometimes are a lie. And so it's really important when we feel betrayed or when we're in situations where things are not accurate, where the depictions of whatever people are trying to create some sort of picture of who you are, or the people you care about, or whatever the case may be, who you are at work, the worker that you are. Understand that criticism and someone trying to make you better is totally different than someone just trying to belittle you or be mean to you, right? And so it's really important to know what is true and to stand on that truth, to stand firm on who you are and who you know that you are, to stand firm on your intentions and your pureness and your authenticity. If there's something that is perceived wrong, right? Let's say you did something at work and how you went about something. You had pure, genuine intentions, but someone's seen it a different way. So then you communicate, right? But sometimes no matter how hard you try, people are going to see you for something that you're not. They're going to see you and they're going to paint a picture of you that is not accurate no matter what you do. And that's why the more that I learn and the more experience that I have, it's just one of those things where I understand that I will not be for everybody, and that is okay. There are going to be people that are going to look at me. They're going to look at me for 5 seconds, not know who I am, and right away come up with an assumption. And that is on them. I'm going to let them. They get to do that. And I think it's so important to really just understand that we can't be good enough for everybody. We are good enough right where we are for who we are. But we can't be that for everybody. And that is not our responsibility. So it is okay to move on from things and to not allow other people or situations to control us for way longer than what they really need to. Some things we need to sit with. Some things we really need to process. We really need to sit in the anger. We need to sit in the sadness, and that is okay. And then hopefully eventually we can move in the healing stage and we can move in the forgiving stage. Because when we hold on to those things, it ends up hurting us so much. And it ends up being such a burden to us. But understand that there are some things that we really just need to take with a grain of salt. And we just need to be like, yeah, this is not getting no more than 5 seconds of my time. Or this is not getting no more than an hour. This is not getting no more than a day. I'm going to go to sleep tonight and I'm going to wake up and tomorrow's a new day and I'm done with this. I'm done with this person. I'm done with this situation. And we don't have to have a negative attitude about it either. Like, we don't have to, when we deal with people who are not handling things the way that maybe we would, that are being mean, rude, disrespectful, unkind, who are not acting in a way that, is right. We're going to let them, because that's their journey, and we can stand up for ourselves and we can have boundaries, but don't let someone have so much control over you to where you're going to sink lower than them. Don't ever, ever, ever let anybody make you sink. We only go up. We only go up. And sometimes that means that maybe we just stay stagnant, right? Maybe we're just going to stay at the same level because right now I can't move up. This is all I got. I can't tell you how many days I'm just like, I have no energy for this and this is bull crap. There's so many things that we deal with as people that are so hard, and oftentimes it's other people that make our life harder. And whether it's intentional or unintentional, whatever the case may be. But we have to be able to just be like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I don't have to sink lower. I don't have to have a bad attitude about it. But you know what? I'm going to feel what I need to feel, and then I'm going to move on. So I think that those are really, really key points as far as understanding, okay, what is our next move? Once we allow people to be who they are, once we let them be who they are, then I think it's really crucial that we know, okay, we're letting them, so now what do we do? And so I think that those are some really, really important key takeaways to really focus and zone in on. And wherever you are in your journey or your idea with this topic, I hope that you can really even implement just one of those things. But most importantly, I hope that you are able to let people just be who they are, to know when to walk away, to know when to stay, when to stand up for yourself, when to take things with a grain of salt, when to throw a tantrum and for how long, and when to be resilient, and when it's time to move on, and when it's time to heal and forgive. Now, when I was actually thinking through this podcast, and almost every night I watch The Office with my boyfriend, and we'll be like just watching and laughing, and it's one of my favorite shows ever. But I'm often actually like reflecting on how much I want to be like Jim and Pam. And the reason why is because for those of you who do not know or watch this show, Jim and Pam are like the rational, reasonable people in the office, and basically every other coworker that they have is very unique in their own way, but pretty irrational for the most part. A lot of their coworkers will say things that are not only inappropriate, but just totally out of pocket, really inaccurate. And it's like some things, when you're watching the show, it's like, oh my gosh, that is so funny. And it's hilarious how Jim and Pam react because, frankly, they don't give a reaction at all. Frankly, they expect it. And when I am watching this show, I'm thinking of like the let them theory, where Jim and Pam are just letting them, like they know who their coworkers are. They know their patterns. They know that they say out of pocket things. They know that they can take most of the stuff that they say with a grain of salt. And they know that there's going to be situations that are going to be like, well, that wasn't right. Shouldn't have done that. That wasn't okay. But they don't ever let it just like sit with them, right? And let it control them. They're really good in the show about just simply moving on. And I'm telling you, like, it has been the most out of pocket, rude, disrespectful things that have been said to them. And again, it's a really funny show. So when those things happen, it's hilarious. And their responses are just like they'll look at the cameraman and like just their eyes are like, well, that was weird. And then they move on. Right. And I'm just like, man, I wish that I could be more like that in my life. And I'm not taking things so critically or so personally. And, when things are mean or when something hurts my feelings, like I don't want to walk around as this robot, but I just don't want people to have the ability to control me. And I think if we could all live life kind of like Jim and Pam, where they're just like, all right, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I'm moving on. I'm just here to do my job. And at the end of the day, I'm going to let you be who you are. And that's what they do with all their coworkers. Every single one of them is so unique. Specifically, their boss, Michael, who is the most inappropriate, who is the most out-of-pocket person in the entire office. They just let him be who he is. And I think that that is such an important takeaway from this today, is understanding that people are going to go on their own journey. And it is not our responsibility. If a person wants to change, they're going to change. If a person does not want to change, they're not going to. But we cannot argue with someone who doesn't want to change. We cannot decide that we're going to control and change another person when they just won't. That is not only our responsibility, but that will take every bit of peace that we have. That will take everything that we have, all of our energy, and we'll end up just wasting our time. And so where my mind kind of goes with these last couple thoughts is just that I am not a true believer in karma, but I am a believer in the fact that if you are an unhealed person, I believe that you're going to continue cycles over and over and over again in your life. And when you break those cycles, I believe that you get to experience an entire new life. I believe that you get to experience new feelings and new blessings and joys. But when you are a person who decides that you're going to stay in a hurt or unhealed place, I think that there are things that not only are going to continue to leave you such a hurt place, but we have to remember that hurt people hurt people. And so we have to know and understand and expect that when people are staying in that cycle, that is their own journey. And while I don't believe in karma, I think that people are also going to eventually catch on. Like other people are going to catch on. And I can't tell you how many times I've experienced, this in my past seasons where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be silent. I'm going to focus on what I can, control what I can, focus on me, not trying to control other people, not trying to control other situations or hold on to something that I'm supposed to let go of. I really got to a point to where I was like, there's nothing more that I can do. I have to let this person just be who they are, go through the things that they're going through, and show who they are as a person. And every single time it had revealed, other people caught on. And I think that we have to sometimes just sit with that. And in certain situations, that's really, really hard, because it's like sometimes people go years of being manipulative and narcissistic and lying and doing the wrong thing. And when we know that those things are happening, it's really hard to stay silent. And I'm not saying like don't stand up for what is right. I think that you really should. But I just think if you can find a way to hold on to your peace while doing that and not letting, other people or situations control you, and then you feeling like you have to justify or validate anything, I think that's really, really crucial in this process. And so when these things happened in my life, I really just was able to sit back, again, after learning the hard way, to sit back and understand, okay, these things about this person, about these people, about this situation, Over time, it's going to be revealed. Over time, people are going to catch on. And again, not necessarily karma, but when people sit in that unhealed stage and decide that they're not going to change, decide that, there's nothing that they need to change, or they're not aware of their actions and how their actions are hurting other people, we have to let them go through their journey. And it's so crucial to really understand that people do have their own journey. People have their own perception. People have their own testimony. And there really is nothing that we can do to get in the way of that. And kind of going back to the whole perception thing, when it comes to people doing right or doing wrong and just letting people be who they are, letting them be, what they're showing you, and then deciding what you're going to do next, I think it's also important to understand that not only does everybody get a choice, but everybody has their own perception. It helped me to really not get into petty little arguments or feel like I needed to control other people's, the disagreements or their thought process, when I just understood that this is their perception. It might be far from the truth. It might be far from actually what really happened, but this is how they're seeing it. And that's really hard, especially if you're dealing with someone who's mentally not well, right? Because then we know that that person is not seeing situations. They're not aware of their actions. They're not even at all mindful of who they're being as a person. But then that's where we just have to let them. And then we're going to understand that their perception, nope, it's not right, but that's how they see it. And that is okay. And that there's nothing that we're going to do to change that. Everyone has the right to see things the way that they do. Everybody even has the right to act on the things that they want to. But then again, everything is going to come with a consequence, positive or negative. So let's zone in on not wasting our time and our energy on things that are not for us. And that includes when people mistreat us. That includes when we face betrayal, when people seclude us, when we don't feel like we're being treated correctly by another person, or someone is gossiping about us or saying false things, right? That doesn't mean that we don't stand up for ourselves again. We can do that. We can do those things with boundaries. We can do those things with still pure and kind hearts without sinking to their level. But we also can be able to give ourselves time to process the things that we're just going to humanly and not robotically respond to. We have feelings. We can experience the things that we need to, but we need to give ourselves the appropriate and realistic timeline of how we're going to feel, when we're going to feel it, and then we're moving on from it, because we're not going to ever allow another person or another situation to control us beyond that. Because what is for us is for us. And what is not, we need to release. And oftentimes we get into these situations where we just let people be who they are, and then they show us who they are. And that's when we get to decide, okay, this person is meant for me, or this person is not. And actually that thing that happened that I didn't like, that was more so a blessing than anything, because it showed me who is and is not supposed to be in my life. That is one of the things that has been, I say a lot of things have been like a hard lesson. I seriously could just write a book probably on the hard lessons that I have faced in my 28 years of life. But it has been such a blessing, not in the moment when something didn't go my way, right? Whether it was a relationship or a friendship or something happened just totally unexpectedly. Of course, in those moments, you're not going to be happy. They're going to be like, what the heck? I didn't see this coming. But ultimately, everything happens for a purpose. And ultimately, then that allows us to understand what is really for us and what is not. So in this life, I truly hope that you know that it is not your responsibility to take on other people's actions, to take on even the things that they say about you, to take on the ways that people have mistreated you or secluded you or done something wrong that maybe you would have never done to that person. That's not our responsibility. And we're going to let them, and then we get to decide what we're going to do next, because that is what we can control. But more importantly, more than anything, I encourage you to focus on you being the best version of yourself. That you focus on loving yourself so incredibly much that other people feel welcome and they feel loved, and that you never sink down to another person's level who has mistreated you. I hope that you are able to be in a place that is filled with healing and kindness and goodness and forgiveness, and that you are able to be in a place that is filled with resilience, and that no matter what, that you choose to be strong enough to never allow a situation or a person to control you. Because when we are able to move on and release the things that are not meant for us, we're able to experience the peace that is truly for us. Thank you so incredibly much for listening today. God bless you.